Hello, my wonderful colleagues, and welcome back to another episode of Hey HR. Today, we are talking about the medical industry, specifically nurses, new nurses. Let's go.
Now, let me tell you why working in healthcare is a complete fucking joke, okay? So today, one of the higher ups comes to me and she's like, hey, so your cardigan, you can't wear that anymore. Somebody actually reported you for being unprofessional. And, I'm not going to lie. When you first started wearing the cardigan, it was cute. But now it just looks ratty. And I just looked at her. First of all, it was very rude, number one, and very demeaning. Second of all, I was having a horrible day. So many things were going on. And you're worried about a cardigan? A cardigan. Literally a cardigan that I don't even wear during patient care. And the crazy thing about it is, like, let's worry about how I haven't taken a break or how I haven't had a lunch and it's 4 p.m. Like, let's worry about the things that matter. And honestly, I just feel like when you work in healthcare, you can't be too bubbly. You can't be like a bright spirit because it's like they always have to find a way to knock you down. When I tell you I'm so bubbly on the unit, I literally, all the patients love me. Like, I've never had a complaint. And it's like you're worried about a freaking cardigan. It honestly, I almost cried because the day I was having, like, that was literally the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's just so disheartening, especially like when you're working so hard at your job and it's like they try to nitpick on the smallest freaking things. Like, girl. And then for me to wear something ratty, for you to say it looks ratty, that was the adjective that you had to come up with about a fucking outfit that I had on. Ratty? Girl. And what's crazy is I wouldn't even have to wear the cardigan if they weren't being so petty and put a lockbox on the thermostat so we couldn't adjust the temperature in the nurse's station. Like, it's always something like, why are y'all worried about that? Honestly, this doesn't have anything to do with patient safety, patient satisfaction, nothing. A fucking cardigan. And that just really was disheartening today. And I'm just over healthcare. And it's just not fair.
Maturing in nursing is realizing that one day you, your managers or your coworkers or whoever can cuss each other out, go back and forth, go head to head, toe to toe, all motherfucking day long. The next day, next week, you come back into work, it's a clean slate, nothing ever happened. Because as long as nothing affects the patient, everybody gonna still have a job. Crazy. Nursing is so fucking toxic. It's sickening. Nursing school don't prepare you for that. But yeah, anyways, all I said that to say is new grads, don't let nobody disrespect you. Stand 10 toes behind you and how you feel. And don't let these old heads play with you, because they will if you let them.
I was written up and almost fired by hospital administration because I did not submit to their demands and apologize. They wanted me to apologize to a rude and belligerent patient that called me out my name and cussed me out using the F word. So around 8:30, 9 o'clock, when I was doing my morning med pass, the patient asked me, hey, could you do my dressing change right now? When I asked him why, he said, because this is around the same time that his home health nurse would come and do his dressing change. So I said to him, now would not be an ideal time because the attending on our floor likes to look at the wounds. And you have a complicated dressing change order and you require being pre-medicated before. So I would hate for you to have to go through that twice in one shift. So if you don't mind, could we wait until after the attending rounds on you, looks at your wound, and then I will come in right after and do your dressing change? The patient was in agreement. So we left it alone. So that day, because there was a code on the floor, the attending rounded a bit later than he usually do. So he rounded on my patient maybe around like 3 p.m. So right after the attending left, I asked him, could I come in and do his dressing change now? Would he like for me to pre-medicate him? Seeing that his dressing is off. And he said, well, actually, there was an NP with the attending and she put back on the dressing and he's about to go into a conference call. So I should come back later and do it. I said, no problem. 4 o'clock comes around. I go back, said, hey, would you like for me to do your dressing change right now? Again, he says, no, not right now. Come back later. I go back at 4:45. Tells me no again. Give him a bit more time. He has something that he has to do. I said, okay, I just want you to know I'm trying to get this dressing change done on my shift, but I also have a new admission coming. So I intend to be in my new admissions room for a while. So I would like to get this done as soon as possible. He still refused, which was his right, and he told me he would let me know when he was ready. So 5:15 rolls around. I get report from ER about my patient, but the ER nurse told me that there's about 3 patients ahead of mine, so my patient would be up in about 30 minutes. I was like, okay, bet. I go to the patient and I said to him, hey, would you like for me to do your dressing change right now? He said, come back in 15 minutes. Well, my patient came up earlier than I thought. So now I'm attending to my new admission. So I'm walking to the supply room and I walk past my patient's room that has the wound. And the patient yelled out, hey, nurse. And I was like, I'm coming. I go into the supply room. I come back to his room. He's on isolation, so I'm standing at the door. So he says, I'm ready for you to do my dressing change. And I said, I can't do it right now. I'm with my new admission and this is going to take me some time. I will come back as soon as I get a chance. He said, well, I've been waiting all day. I said, come back as soon as I get a chance. He loses it. You effing nurses, y'all don't have no respect for nobody. I've been waiting all day with this old soiled dressing, and you said you were going to do my dressing, and I know you're just trying to pass it on to the night shift. And I'm looking at him just bewildered. And he was like, y'all don't respect nobody. Y'all don't respect y'all patients. And he was just going off, dropping all sorts of F-bombs, and he called me stupid. So while he was still speaking, I closed the door. I did not slam it, but I did close the door and I walked off. So right before I entered my new admissions room, my phone rang. I see that it's the patient, right? Because we have like the mobile phones on us. He's like, when are you effing coming back to do my effing dressing? And I said, I'll get to it as soon as I can, but I'm with another patient. I have to go. I hung the phone up. All right. About 20 minutes later, I'm walking out of my patient's room, the new admissions room, and I see the charge nurse in the hallway waiting on me. So she says to me, hey, what's going on with patient so-and-so with the dressing change? Because he called and he is very upset. He says that he feels disrespected. He says he feels like no one cares about him getting better. He says that he feels like we are delaying his care. And he's saying that he got better care at home than he was getting at the hospital. So I explained to her everything I just told you. And she's like, oh, well, I understand, but just go in there and apologize to him and let night shift do the dressing change. And I said, oh, night shift can do the dressing change, but I'm not apologizing. So the charge nurse says, just go on in there, apologize to him, and don't let this be a fallout. I was like, no, I'm not apologizing to anyone that has disrespected me and having them think that that's okay. Like, he's not going to disrespect me. I'm someone's child. You're not going to disrespect me. So she's like, you know how our manager is. We don't want this to become a customer service issue. We don't want this to become a fallout. You know, we care about our HCAP scores, and let's just end this right here and apologize. I said, no, I am not apologizing. So it was about 6:30. And I said to the patient, hey, would you like for me to do your dressing change? He said yes. I pre-medicated him. And then about 10 minutes later, I went in his room and I did the dressing change. He was pretty quiet while I was doing it. I was pretty quiet. I did the dressing change, walked out. It was over. So the next day, I get called into the office right before lunchtime. And the manager was like, tell me about what happened yesterday with Mr. So-and-so and his dressing change. I told her, and she said, well, did the charge nurse tell you to apologize? I said, yes, she did. And she said, well, did you apologize? And I was like, no, I didn't apologize. And she was like, well, because you did not apologize, you're getting written up. And I was like, so it's okay for patients to disrespect staff and just everything is okay? And she was like, well, it's about patient satisfaction and patient perspective, and the patient experience. So you should have apologized. And I was like, well, write me up then, because I'm not apologizing. And new grad nurse, baby nurse, nurses that are in the early parts of their careers, I want to tell you something, and please listen to me. I was wrong. It's been a few years now, so I've had time to think about it. I was wrong. As the professional in the situation, the standard for me is significantly higher. I'm not the patient. I'm a trained professional. No, I shouldn't be disrespected when I go to work. But you don't know what it's like being a patient. Just think about his situation. He's a paraplegic. He's having health issues. He feels like he's lost his autonomy. He's lost control of his life. He probably is depressed, going through a lot, maybe physically, emotionally, spiritually. And the littlest things may trigger him, and many of our patients, right? And I took the one thing that he had control of, which was the time that his dressing change was done. And we have to try to get into the mindset of our patients. And regardless if he was wrong, because so many things have already been taken from this man, I could have given him empathy. I could have apologized, and that could have just changed his entire experience. I've had multiple situations after where patients have disrespected me, and I've let it breathe, and I've came back and apologized to them. And my relationship with those patients became rock solid and tight. So as nurses, we have to be servant leaders. And sometimes that's apologizing to a patient who's completely disrespectful. It's okay. It's okay. Just who saw it off, and just think about it. You are here to serve people.
So now I understand and see why other nurses say, be careful what you say around other nurses. Let's talk about it. So I'm technically only, 2 months into my position. And for the next 4 weeks, I am precepting on a med-surg floor. So my first week with my preceptor, she was cool and whatnot. I'm not really a talkative person. Like, I'm very to myself. Like, I'm nice, but I also know my boundaries. So the preceptor that I'm with, I had mentioned to her, she's like, so you're going to be in the ED? And I was like, yeah, but they have me like shadowing like on med-surg floors for the next 4 weeks. And she's like, oh, that's weird. I'm just like, yeah, but it's okay. Like, I'm not really sure, like, like why, they like want me here. Like, maybe it's just for like, getting like some experience, seeing like, how patients go from the ER to the med-surg floor and like the care that they have to offer there. Maybe that's the reason why, but like, I'm not gonna be upset about it or anything like that. I'm just gonna take the experience and take this as like a learning lesson for me before I go to the ED. So this week I'm with a different preceptor. So every floor that I'm with, like, I'm with someone different. So today I'm like, with my preceptor, and my educator calls me. She's like, hey, like, do you mind coming to meet with me and your ER manager? And I was just like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll be down in a minute. Now, for me, I thought this was so weird, because I'm just like, why is she choosing to meet with me? Just because I was like, what, I wasn't really expecting to meet with her until like my 4 weeks was over of shadowing on like the med-surg floors. And then it's time for me to go to the ED type of thing. But I was like, all right, cool, no problem. I'm going to just go down there and see like what was up. So I get into the office, and they're like, so like, how's everything been going? Like, how was your first week? And I was like, I was honest. I was like, well, my first week, I felt like I really didn't do too much. I kind of felt like I was like a nursing student all over again, like just observing, watching, like what my preceptor was kind of doing. Like, I wasn't really like interactive with patients that much or really even doing anything. But I was like, this week is a little different. So the preceptor that I'm with today, like, he like coming in, he was like, okay, let's have a goal for today's shift. I'm going to like let you do the meds, pull from the Pyxis, start lines, like do all of that. So I was like, oh, okay, like I felt good about this week, because I felt like my first week, it was kind of just like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be bored out my mind if I literally have to do this for 4 weeks. But then coming into this week and being with this preceptor, I was like, okay, like, you know what you're doing. Like, you're obviously a preceptor that I want to follow and that I want to shadow for the remainder of this week, because I felt like I'm actually learning the basics. I'm being hands-on, and I like to be hands-on. Like, that's the way that I learn best. So then my educator hits me with, okay, like, that's nice. So your preceptor from the previous week said that you said something kind of like in the context of like, oh, you don't know why you're here, or you don't know what you're doing here. And when she said that, I looked at her like, what? Like, okay, like I didn't look too crazy, but I was like a little like blown back. Now, the only reason why I was a little like blown back by this was because I didn't really say it in that type of context. I was kind of just saying like, you know, like I really don't like know what the expectation is, but I'm definitely going to, you know, try to learn the most of it. But I felt like what I said to this other nurse was taken out of context, and she went back and told my educator this, and I felt like it put like a bad like taste, or like a sour like maybe like aspect about like me going to these other floors and like what I may be saying out like on these floors. Like, it's not anything bad, but I also feel like you took what I said to you like out of context and you went back and told them this, so now it looks bad on like me as a person. And I feel like I've seen videos of other nurses talking about be careful like what you say around other nurses, just because, you know, other nurses might feel some type of way that, you know, maybe you're in the department that they want to be in, or, you know, you're making more money because either like you're a traveler or something like that. And I kind of did feel like, you know, I'm like a new nurse. I didn't think like this would automatically happen like straight off the bat. Like, I'm literally only 2 months into working my job. Like, I would figure like, okay, maybe this is something I might deal with like later on down the road type of thing. But 2 months into my job, like, this is how y'all nurses are coming? Like, what the heck? But one thing I will say, like, I'm glad that this did happen to me like very like early on into my career, just because I felt like this was like, all right, this is a learning lesson. And I see that obviously this is very much happening out here in the nursing world. So I'm going to tread cautiously, like, moving forward. So I would say I cannot express this more than enough. All my new nurses, if you are a new grad nurse, when these OG nurses are telling you be careful what you say to other nurses when you're on the floor, be careful what you say, because a lot of the things that you may say can be taken out of context, get back to the wrong people, and now higher ups may have a different perspective of you than what you presented like yourself like in the interview. And that's not the type of energy that you're trying to give, especially as like a newbie like on the floor type of thing. Like, I'm not a mean girl, not at all.
Well, thank you for watching, my colleagues. What do you think? I believe personally and professionally, the young lady who talked about being written up and then apologizing later for it, saying she shouldn't have done it, I disagree. I work in HR. I would not have supported any type of write-up, nor would I have supported the idea of forcing a manager to force an employee to apologize to a rude and disrespectful client. Patients need to have patience. And I understand it's the medical field. I understand he was a paraplegic and had all of these things happening to him. However, you do not soil the relationship with your medical provider. If anything, you try to get some understanding. It was him that kept rescheduling and wanting to be medicated and, helped later. It was not hers. So the world does not revolve around you. Yes, you have an ailment, but we're here. They're here to help you. So I would not have supported a write-up. You did well. Do not apologize for things you do not believe in. And if you need clarification, come to HR. But until then, my friends, thank you for watching Hey HR. Peace.